Good morning. Welcome to Money Matters. I'm DCrowell from Mortgage Network, and I'll be hosting the show today on my own. Emily is away traveling, and so you've got me. In the first segment, starting right now, I'm going to talk about politics, policies, and economics. In other words, how are the major issues that are being contemplated in Washington going to affect the economic landscape. And probably the first and most important of those, we've not talked a lot about it on this show, but the first and most important of the political hot buttons and policy hot buttons is healthcare. Healthcare, in all of its various ramifications, represents close to 20% of the U.S. economy. It's an enormous, many-faceted, huge employer and vast amount of money spent. So it from a political point of view, from a policy point of view, and from an economic point of view, is the nexus of more important change than most of the other topics put together. The second largest topic would be out-the-door spending, when that out-the-door spending is enormous in scope, which would be the proposal to spend another $50 billion on the military, and the proposal to do upwards of $1 trillion worth of infrastructure improvement over the next 10 years. So those are the three biggies, but let's focus on healthcare for a moment. Healthcare occupies a different place in the U.S. economy than in any other developed nation. The unique model on which the U.S. economy operates, the healthcare business model in the U.S. economy, places insurance companies smack dab in the middle of the healthcare equation. On the one side, you have all of us as patients, as consumers of healthcare. On the other side, you have the providers, large interest groups, all of the doctors of all shapes and sizes and disciplines and specialties, all of the physicians and nurses and healthcare assistants and PAs and so forth, all of the providers on one side. The pharmaceutical companies fall on that side. The medical equipment companies fall on that side. So you have the consumers, ourselves, and you have the providers, and smack in the middle you have the insurance companies. It's a very unique feature, unique to the United States. In other developed countries, Canada, for instance, the UK, for instance, Germany, for instance, you have basically the government sitting in the middle, providing a direct, guaranteed, single-payer health care system for the consumers and the providers to interface. There's no middleman, so to speak. In all of those countries, there are insurance companies playing in the market, but they play approximately a 15% to 20% piece of the pie, and wealthy citizens can buy an elevated form or a me-first form of health care if they wish, that's over the top of the nationally provided health care, the single-payer health care. What's interesting about this is that health care is essentially non-insurable. It's a bit like buying insurance as to whether the sun is going to rise tomorrow or not. It's a given. So it's the word oxymoron, a contradiction in terms would be appropriate to talk about insuring health care. They don't really fit together. This is not a political argument. I'm just making a logical argument here. The two do not and cannot fit together. People, human beings, will get sick. Human beings, absolutely will age. This is a given. This is a guarantee. This is the sun rising in the morning, setting in the evening, and the aging process brings with it a vast array, vast and costly array of health costs. The most notable of which is assisted living and nursing home care in the very latest years of life. So that's a guarantee. What possible sense does it make to insure for or against such events? It really doesn't. So what's really going on? What's going on is a business is being made in the middle and a profit being taken for the administration and distribution of funds between providers and consumers. There's an administrator in the middle. There's a wholesaler in the middle that is converting all of the services from the providers, all of the equipment, all of the shapes and forms of medical care. It's converting that and acting as the paymaster and the administrator for the consumers. That administrative role is a necessary role, but it has nothing to do with insurance. It's a very interesting proposition here. In the so-called Obamacare insurance bill, the Affordable Care Act, a great deal was talked about in terms of the healthcare mandate, the requirement that young people, healthy people, join the healthcare system, and if they didn't, they would be penalized. That's another way of saying that there's nothing to do with insurance. It's to do with simply an administrative economic function in which the large number of people in the society who consume very little health care pay in, and the large number of people at the other end of the age spectrum who consume a great deal of health care get paid out. It is no different than the Social Security system, which does exactly the same thing in theory when it's in balance. If you have an equal number of workers paying into Social Security and an equal number of non-workers or retirees taking out of Social Security, then the Social Security system works. But it's also mistakenly called insurance. It's not insurance. It's administration. It's bean counting at the highest level. It's a way of taking a pool of mixed pool of risk, very elaborately and accurately calculating the costs associated with that entire risk, and then distributing that expense. And you distribute it between, in this case, workers and non-workers, and in the healthcare example, you distribute it between the young and the old, and the wealthy and the not so wealthy. So, as we come to the end of the first half, I'm going to launch in the second half into the economic consequences of the debate surrounding health care, which is the biggest of the three. And it's a very profoundly important debate, and one that will ricochet through the economy. See you in a minute.